Hello, School Transportation Nation. Tony Corpin here. We're excited you made it to the podcast, and happy July. We're here in July. Where has the year gone? STN EXPO is like less than 2 weeks away. We are so excited. Can't wait to get there. Got a great co-host with me, Mr. Ryan Gray. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tony. It's always great to be on the nation.
Always great. It's always great to have great sponsors too, because this podcast is brought to you by Transfinder, the leader in school bus routing software, Ride, real innovation delivered with excellence, and School Radio, your source for reliable radio communications. So Ryan, you're going to be talking in just a little bit with Pallav Prakash, Zoom's Director of Electrification Program Management, and also STN's 2024 Innovator of the Year. Did you guys pick up your July issue? Did you see it yet? Maybe you didn't pick it up yet because it's still too early, but go to the website. You probably can't wait to read it. Great story written by our own Taylor Ekbatani. Got to check it out. It is a really great one, talking about all the good things happening there at Zoom. And what kind of an interesting person Pallav is, Ryan. What a great interview.
Yeah, he's a former Navy, Indian Navy submariner, commander of a diesel electric hybrid. So basically the diesel, not what we saw in the school bus industry several years ago, but using diesel to charge the electric batteries and subs, and parlay that experience and knowledge into scalable total fleet electrification for Oakland Unified School District and V2G. So certainly an illuminating conversation I have with him, and just coming up in a little bit, positioning Zoom to really roll this out nationwide. Coming up next, Los Angeles Unified and San Francisco Unified are going to have this total electrification. So pretty interesting stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're going to dive into some more topics here in the July issue, but we have a quick message from Ride. Their real innovation delivered with excellence. The safest family of electric school buses just got bigger. Meet the creator, the all-new Type C bus from Ride, with seating for up to 78 students and a range of over 200 miles on a single charge. The creator joins the Achiever and Dreamer to form the most advanced lineup of electric school buses on the road. Visit ride.co, that's RIDE.co, to discover the future of student transportation. Ride. They're changing the way kids get to school. So Ryan, July issue is out. What were your top picks for the stories? I know we touched last week on the driver's story. We have Innovator of the Year. That's got to be a big one. Were there any other standouts that jumped out to you?
Yeah, certainly. So I helped write an article along with Carol Brzezowski, one of our freelancers, on remote engine diagnostics and software updates. So one of the, curiously, or not, maybe not so curiously to a lot of folks out there, but interesting to us, was several years ago, there was a partner update that was on our website, and it talked about the anxiety school bus drivers have when the engine light comes on. And certainly, I don't know about you, Tony, but anytime any light comes on my dashboard, and with today's vehicles, I mean, you could get tire pressure monitoring warnings and engine and battery and whatnot. But that is a big concern of a lot of school bus drivers. What happens if they're en route and suddenly the engine light comes on? The last thing anybody wants is the school bus to break down, strand kids on the side of the road. That was back in, that was before COVID when we ran that article, and the user interaction with that article has just been tremendous, and it just kind of has that staying power. We continuously have seen that there's really high readership numbers on that particular article. So we set out to dive a little bit more into that, and really it comes down to what we're seeing a trend in these remote software updates, similar to what we have with our iPhones and our computer systems. Touch of the button, we get, a notification, hey, a new software patch is available. You click it, a couple minutes later, there it is, it's done. Same principle applies to engines. And really, this has been a technology that's been available for some time now. And what we want to do is just kind of find out what's been going on with it lately, and learned that really, along with a lot of things with vehicles, and talking with Cummins and others, that these software updates have really gone to the OE level, where everything is being, factory inline installed. So a lot of all the programmatics and the data analysis on these engines. I mean, it's like we've talked about all the time. These are like rolling computers now. But really, there for a while there was a talk about aftermarket opportunities to run these updates. Really, it's gone to factory direct, and with that, in lockstep, the remote diagnostics. And certainly now, as we're transitioning into an electric realization with our school buses, that same technology is transferring to that as well. Kind of across the board, we spoke with Cummins, IC Bus, Daimler / Thomas Built buses, and for the electric school buses, that those remote updates are going to be happening and going to be available soon on those electric vehicles. Obviously not updating the engine, but there's so much going on with the battery packs, with the e-axles, the drivetrains, and all the programmatics that go on with that. A lot of high voltage. So if you're buying an electric school bus, and some of these functionalities are currently being tested right now, pilot tested out in the field. So you may have already gotten some word on this from your dealer. If not, and you either have electric school buses or are in the market for them, certainly this is technology that is just about ready everywhere.
And speaking of school buses, Ryan, I know we broke the story last week that TransTech Bus had been acquired by Forest River, the parent company of Collins Bus and Starcraft on the more the shuttle bus side of things. And now you were able to catch up with David Wright, who runs Forest River's bus division, just all of Forest River on that side of the house. Mm-hmm. What was that conversation like? Did he give you more insights into the deal? What's going to happen?
Yeah, so I spoke with David Wright last week, and he did give me some insights. When we first broke the news, we knew, of course, that they were acquiring TransTech Bus and really a consolidation of Type A brands that we have not seen in the marketplace. Forest River, of course, bought Collins Bus earlier this year, closed that deal in late January. Now have TransTech Bus. So I wanted to ask him, hey, this is pretty unprecedented. And he said, certainly they're going to continue to compete in the marketplace, but there's going to be a lot of synergies there as Forest River has both under its umbrella now. So we're going to be looking at September timeframe for what's called a quote unquote seamless transition. So even on the heels of the announcement, Tony, David told me that his management team at Forest River was flying out to Warwick, New York, where TransTech Bus is located, and the senior management has started to have meetings and start that knowledge share, that transition, so that Forest River can go ahead and bring TransTech in-house there in Goshen, Indiana. A lot, as I mentioned, a lot of synergies there. He said they're going to both benefit from the purchasing power on the OEM as well as supply side and share similar components with other Forest River brands. So you mentioned a couple of them. Forest River, obviously very big in the shuttle bus and RV spaces. So very interesting to see how that moves forward. Forest River, one of the questions I asked him, is obviously a very big procurer of Ford cutaway chassis. And certainly TransTech is traditionally has been a very big GM chassis builder or body builder on chassis. So I think, I wanted to ask him, how is that going to play out? And David said, hey, yes, we have this relationship with Ford, but we also have really a strong relationship with GM. But in terms of the GM chassis that are available, David indicated that it's still can be a challenge getting GM chassis. But certainly, he said it's good to have the additional options out there in the market. So, it's going to be interesting. Also, Transtech last fall, Tony, they made that announcement on their new SSTE electric school bus, and they're partnering with Optimal EV on that one. They unveiled that at NAPT last fall. Well, it just so happens, where's Optimal EV's headquarters, Tony? Goshen, Indiana, right down the street from Forest River. So David said that they are still, going through all the details on that deal. So certainly, but looking forward to seeing how that shakes out for Forest River and their electric school bus options.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think, the customer is going to have to decide too, what brand do they choose, right? As the market consolidates, there are certain things about certain products. Like you said, if you love GM chassis, you want to go with someone that's built on GM. You love Ford, you want to go with Ford. Now you've got a lot of EV type A vehicles or an amalgamation of that. And that's starting to also be unchassied, right? You're not beholden to all these chassis shortages. Now, granted, an EV is going to cost you a lot more, but we have seen the price of type A buses increase significantly because of supply chain issues. And the cost of the units are just going up. So it's kind of interesting to see the market consolidate in this way. We see it in private contractor space, but now here we're seeing it on the manufacturing side. So we'll see how it ends up looking downstream. But, Forest River is known for efficiency. They're known for their productivity, having a good value product. So we'll see how it ends up shaking out.
Absolutely.
And I know, speaking of STN Expo coming up, we got top transportation teams hosted by Transfinder, and we got the official release that they have announced and selected the top transportation teams for 2024. Now, they haven't revealed yet who the number one team is because they do that at STN Expo at the Lunch and Learn. So we haven't quite seen that, which that takes place on Monday, 7/15 at 12 o'clock Pacific. So keep an eye out for that. The plan is to actually stream that session live while we are at STN Expo on either YouTube or LinkedIn. We haven't quite determined which channel yet we're going to do. Maybe we'll multicast on them all, but that's the plan at this point. So if you guys want to check out who wins, you can do it on social media if you aren't perhaps at STN Expo. But if you are there, make sure you come to the Lunch and Learn to check that out. Ryan, did you have a chance to look at their press release and kind of see who are the winners?
Yeah, we actually have a news story up on stnonline.com. So there's essentially two categories, or we'll say two plus an honorable mention that's new this year. But the first category is for 100 or more team members. And those who won are Franklin Township Community School Corporation in Indiana. So they're a repeat, Tony. So this is the second annual top transportation teams. Franklin Township won last year, 2023, in Reno as well. So they're defending their title there. They are joined by Central Kitsap School District in Washington State and the School District of Haverford Township in Pennsylvania. The other category is for districts with fewer than 100 transportation team members, and those winners are East Peoria Elementary School District 86 in Illinois, Waunee Community School Corporation in Indiana, so our friend Amy Rosa is the director out there, and Waterloo Central School District in New York. And I mentioned this honorable mention for the first time. They are looking at a contractor. So that honorable mention goes to Palmer Bus Service in Minnesota.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I can't wait to see who is announced the top transportation team of 2024. Always exciting. We appreciate Antonio Civitella, President and CEO of Transfinder, and his team for making the effort. I know it's a big push to get everybody to fill out the surveys, get all the team members to respond, tabulate the data, and here it is. It's going to get revealed. So I know it was one of the absolute top sessions that was attended at STN EXPO. So I can't imagine it's not going to disappoint, Ryan. It's going to be really interesting.
No.
And it's great to see all these kind of leaders with these top teams come together and talk a lot about how they curate that type of culture, how they produce high performing teams, and how they're getting these results. Because, everybody wants to know, how did they emulate a similar kind of approach so they can have great success as well within their student population and with their team. And nobody likes not looking good, right? Everybody wants to look great.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is why we go to conferences, to kind of elevate, talk to people, learn what others are doing, and see if we can bring back nuggets to implement in our operation. So we're excited for STN EXPO. It's going to be July 12th through the 17th. We still can get you out there. You can still register. So don't wait. Come out to Reno. We'd love to see you. And Ryan, I'm really excited for your interview with Pallav. This is going to be really good, man. Can't wait to see it. But before we get to it, we got a quick message. Hey guys, are you looking for reliable radio communications? School radio has just that. Push-to-talk over cellular radios are gaining importance across various environments for their role in streamlining communication and enabling immediate contact among essential staff. School radio helps take connectivity a step further by offering interoperability solutions that bridge conventional two-way radios with POC systems, creating a unified network that boosts effectiveness and safety. This integrated strategy guarantees smooth communication in both emergency situations and daily activities. To learn more about school radio, how they can improve your communication methods, visit school-radio.com. That's school-radio.com.
All right, Nation, we're back. If you've read your July STN magazine digitally at stnonline.com, you will know who our next guest is. He graces the cover. Pallav Prakash, Doctorate of Business Administration from Zoom Services. He is our 2024 Innovator of the Year. This is our second annual award honoring a contractor employee who has done something revolutionary in the industry. And Pallav, congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to jump in here in a second and talk about your honor and why you are being recognized for the electrification and V2G services at Zoom.
So Ryan, thank you very much. And I am extremely honored, humbled, and grateful for STN to recognize me. While I am the face of the company, and I am getting honored, I must tell you that there's a whole lot of ecosystem partners, stakeholders who represent me, and I am just the face of it. So there is a lot more to this award than that one may say is attributed to me. I'm just the face. So thank you for having me here, and I am truly honored and humbled with this recognition. It means a lot to me. It also means a lot to my company, Zoom Services.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're very deserving, and we're going to get into a lot of the reasons behind this. Very technical, but as we were talking before, we're going to have you kind of approach this from a layman's terms, and that's what you said your goal was, to really explain the electrification and V2G. Now, this is, first of all, I should say you are the Director of Electrification Program Management for Zoom. How long have you been with the company?
So I've been for over 2.5 years, and it's been a great ride.
So certainly Zoom has done a lot of revolutionizing already in the school bus industry with its approach to student transportation, certainly with its adoption of electric school buses. I believe that the company is looking to go fully electric nationwide here. What in the next? I would say, what was it? The next 5 or 6 years, 10 years? Where does that?
3 years.
3 years. Wow, so that's very aggressive, and certainly over the last several years, certainly since COVID, seen great expansion of Zoom. I mean, you guys are now nationwide. I think something like several thousand school buses now that you're operating, really, on coast to coast, really. So really turning into a national player in the school bus contracting and student transportation services world. Now, this work that we're honoring you for this month, sir, it's for really one of those operations, at least currently. This is kind of the springboard for the company where you're rolling out this new brand of electrification in V2G, and it was for Oakland Unified. Talk a little bit about why Oakland Unified was the place to really introduce this new implementation or this new way of electrifying school buses.
So let me start off why we chose Oakland. While we are committed to children, we are committed to their safety, we are committed to providing them better resources so that they are the thinking minds of the future. One of the metrics that we feel very, very compelled about is the equity or the level playing field for children. Now, if I have a choice, I have children, and one child needs a little support to come to be a level player in the entire ecosystem, I would first like to go that way. And that is why Oakland happened. A disadvantaged community on all parameters of pollution, parameters of income, parameters of health. In all of that, the city of Oakland has probably the most difficult, or I would say, bad indicators of matrices. It's very high pollution, rate of asthma is very high, income is low. So children, and we transport underprivileged, or I would say handicapped children, or special children as we call it in our terms. So what could have we done better to provide them some kind of relief from at least whatever is going on in and around them? So we started with that thought, and Oakland fits the perfect bill. A disadvantaged community that needs support, that needs help. And that's why Oakland happened. And the other piece to that is when we were trying to identify, not to say the other school districts are not equally excited, but Kim Rainey, the transportation director, she is one of the, I would say, she is one of the rock stars in the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
She had a vision. She wanted to change the status quo. And she was one of the first in 2019 to say, can we give them an electrified transport system? So hats off to Oakland School District in pioneering. And it was something like a coincidence that when we went to them, they were more than excited. So that's how it happened.
Okay. And in terms of their fleet, can you give us an idea of the scope and size? How many school buses are in the fleet? Zoom is operating all school transportation, all school buses for Oakland Unified?
Yeah, so Oakland, I would give you some data points. So Oakland comes with 74 school buses, and these are for special or handicapped children. About 3,000 of them get benefited through this transportation service. And the city of Oakland has routes that starts from 15 miles or 20 miles a day to about 50 miles a day one way. So it has an area and it has a geography which is steep hills, a lot of inclined surfaces. So we had to work to understand what is required for Oakland. And they wanted us to do the electrification by the fall of next year. And thanks to the partnership with them and with, as we progress these talks further, thanks to all of them that we are 1 year ahead of schedule.
Yes, and so it's going to full fleet electrification.
Full fleet, all electric, 1 year ahead of schedule. And in this process of transporting 3,000 students, they would be the first school district in United States to go all electric and the first electric vehicle to grid, that is V2G yard, and the largest facility in United States to go all electric. This is at scale. This is not something which we are doing as a 2-bus or a 5-bus or a 10-bus pilot. We are deploying it on actual ground starting this fall.
Great. Well, congratulations on that big feat. And certainly, as I mentioned earlier, this will be a great proving ground as you're, I'm sure, looking to roll this out eventually to all Zoom fleets nationwide. So, I want to talk about the nitty gritty here. And I mentioned, we were talking about you're going to lay this out in layman's terms. But in terms of that electrification and V2G, we know that there's obviously a lot of unique challenges to school districts and school bus companies when it comes to these topics. Let's talk about a little bit about your background first and how you parlayed this into this pathway forward. So in your previous life, you were in the Indian Navy and you were a submarine commander. Talk a little bit about that and talk about the lessons you learned that are now helping you with electrifying and running V2G for school buses.
So I would first like to start with why Oakland is important and then how it weaves into my life. And I would like to say that, Oakland is a new, or I would say a game changer in school bus transportation. Reason being, till now we used buses as means of transport. The electric vehicles or the EV school buses that ran were consumer of energy. So energy was being supplied for transportation. This would be the first to start with where a transportation platform is source of energy to the community. And the beauty is 1 million homes for about 2 to 3 hours in a year. We would be producing upwards of 2.1 gigawatt hours a year in this facility, which could be used for communities. Having said that, it sets the precedent in a new way, a new thought process. Then the lessons we learn from here would be replicated in other school districts and across the nation. And last but not the least this is a playbook for the future. Now, how it came about, my past life as a submariner. Across the world, the diesel electric submarines, as we call them, these submarines have been around for over 100 years. The beauty is the technology has been perfected. Now, these are the equipments of war and an offensive weapon platform. But my job was, or what I say, the learnings from there is something that I applied to children. So what were those learnings? First, how can we make transportation safer? And the first thing is, in an all-electric system, there are two things we have to remember. How smoothly does the current flow or the flow of electricity is? And B, how safe it is to control that flow. So first thing first, the use of bus bars. And what are bus bars? Bus bars are nothing but 6-inch thick copper bars. And instead of using wire, one uses them to connect from transformer. Bus bars and bus ducts are used for connecting the transformer with the switchgear, and that's how the energy flows efficiently. So we did that. What was the result? So there is a term, and I would like to explain it in layman's language. The term is ampere interruptible current. Typically in a household setting, when a circuit breaker is there and there is an unfortunate incident of a fire or a short circuit, it trips at typically 65,000 amperes. That means when the short circuit current reaches that point, it trips. But um, this is where the use of bus bars helped us. It brought down the current, the tripping requirement from 65,000 to 55,000. Net result, my yard would trip first and every time before a household trips on that grid. So my yard becomes safer than others. And that is where the safety factor comes in. The second most important thing is that when we were working with a charger company, we were clear that even if there is a small chance, so in this, what happens is the electricity gets converted into AC to DC, alternating current to a direct current. Now, that gives rise to various kind of interference and other issues. So we worked with a charger company to make sure that these are completely separated. So even if there is a chance of interference, it is minimized. The third most important is when we were laying out the yard design at various functional levels, we put circuit breakers, we made sure that they, each flank or an array of chargers, individual chargers, they are separated out. And this is something that I would say I brought from the Navy, because we are very, very paranoid about that fear of fire. And therefore, it was very important for us to make sure that we sail through this. I'm sorry to be longish, but...
Oh, no. That's a great explanation. No, that's what something that really jumped out to me when you're talking about that AIC and tripping at a lower level than what we see in homes. So certainly, yes, safety. This industry is predicated on that. In terms of the V2G, because a lot of the experiences that we've gotten from folks that we've talked to out there. V2G at one point when it was first being bandied about in the media was this game changer where it could basically pay for itself. And then a lot of studies started happening. We started looking at it in terms of where the rubber meets the road, right, in actual practice. And there were a lot of issues that came out. One of them being that anytime you're offloading electricity back to the grid, you're actually depleting your battery. So you need to have these buses ready to go in the morning. Another issue has been getting all the different utilities nationwide on the same page with what are they going to pay? What's the price that they're going to be paying for this electricity? In terms of what you guys are doing with V2G, can you talk a little bit about, from your standpoint, how you've approached some of those issues? And then going forward, you can bring back some of the information you mentioned earlier with some of the monetization benefits that you're seeing for Oakland, or you're expecting. How did that kind of all come about? What was your thought process, and then the thought process of Zoom in terms of tackling V2G and trying to solve these issues?
So one of the things that at Zoom we have very strongly believed is that each technology will come with its own costs. And therefore, cost is one part of it, but the benefit is the other part of it. While the costs are what they are and they govern the economics of it, I would like to try and help you focus on the benefits that because of V2G, it provides to the whole ecosystem. Imagine a situation, till now you were driving a vehicle which gets charged and then you run around town. Now think of it this way, you have a vehicle which runs around town the entire day, and when there is a peak load requirement in the evening, whatever energy is left, or I would say whatever juice is left, you are able to provide during that peak hour or peak hours to help the community. And think of it this way, 1 million homes, 2 to 3 hours a day. Mm-hmm. What an astounding proposition. And just with these 74 buses. So The first piece is the advantage it brings to the community, not only the children, but the community. You are doing away with expensive peaker plants. You have a power generating capacity right in the heart of the city without harming the environment, and it's clean energy. So imagine the benefits. And now we come to the economics of it. How do we help reach this, or how do we help ourselves reach this point? So the piece is V2G does provide you revenue. But the bigger piece is it's a part of that component that makes things happen, or I would say helps us transition from the ICE or the diesel buses or fossil fueled buses to the electric buses. You have to understand the electric buses are at least 3 to 3.5, maybe sometimes even 4 times as expensive, than an ICE bus or an internal combustion engine bus. So what do we work? How do we get over this problem? So we've worked with the federal government or the federal agencies, namely the EPA and their grants and their rebates. On the other side, we worked with the state of California. They have agencies like CARB, CEC. We also work with utility where they have incentive programs for such kind of things. So we've worked with a whole ecosystem of grants, subsidies, vouchers, and I must thank each of them. I mean, the list is you start from the Energize program, to you go to Bay Area Air Quality Management District, to you go to the Carl Boyer program, the Clean Mobility Operations, the HWAVE, you name it, and we went there, and they all helped. I will always say they all helped to the EPA. So having said all of that, V2G piece provides an offset of the cost. So we stack all the grants and incentives, we put the V2G revenue on top of it, and that helps us transition into EV. So it's not about collecting money, it's about giving benefit to the community and the children by using or leveraging V2G as a cost offset in the total operations model.
Okay, great. And when you were saying that, I was thinking, you had mentioned scalable previously, and that's the kind of that's the road everyone's trying to embark on right now. You guys certainly seemed to have, to a great degree, solved a lot of that scalability already. But when looking at Oakland Unified, and granted, it's a smaller fleet, 74 buses, but more inner city, urban, some suburban. But it's very much a similar fleet size as a lot of districts across the nation that aren't in large city centers, that are more rural or at least suburban. But those locations don't have the access to money like in California. And you mentioned EPA, and I know that with the recent award that was announced, Zoom was a big winner. And I know that you guys have won quite a bit of money in the first few rounds that are going toward electrifying buses nationwide. But I'm curious your thoughts as the electrification and V2G lead for one of the largest school bus contractors in the nation, and that has experience in both urban and some more suburban areas. What would you say to our readers who are saying, well, wait a second, we don't have the access to this money. How can a partner, an ecosystem, and I want to get into that term a little bit more next, like Zoom, how can they help some of these districts figure some of these things out in terms of the challenges?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I would say call Zoom. That's the first solution, the only solution. We manage the turnkey solution part of it. Now, how do we work this out? We have ongoing relationships with various agencies that have funding opportunities. It starts all the way from Fed, goes to the state level, work with the utility, and finally even the green banks. So we have developed and we have created a partnership so that we are able to scale the process. The other piece I would like to tell you is that we have a relationship over 4,000 schools. We operate in almost every major school districts, like Los Angeles, San Francisco, which incidentally are going to be one of our other yards to be electrified soon, or the next yards to be electrified soon. We are expanding rapidly across the nation. So as we move forward, we build partnerships. And I would again go back to my past life of Navy. When the last rope is, pulled up and the ship is at sea, we say that there is now no support. So the logic there, or on the submarine, the logic there is we swim together, we sink together. So for me, partnership is very crucial going forward, working with not only the school districts, but all of these stakeholders to make it happen for the school district. We should never forget the aim that we are doing it for our next generation. What are we going to leave behind for them? Can we give them a better future and a better thinking mind than what we had? So with this school district, we would love to partner with any school districts, because we have, I would claim to have cracked the code, but we have understood the piece, how this puzzle can be put together and how can we make electrification successful with using V2G as leveraging technology.
And that partnership piece, the ecosystem, if you will, that really comes across in the article that our great Taylor Ekbatani writes this month with you. Partnership it's a key theme in your career, as you said, going back to the Navy. But can you talk about the ecosystem? I know that has been a technology term, something that was really born about a decade ago. What is an ecosystem in terms of business? We know what an ecosystem is in nature. There's synergies there, right? Explain that for our audience.
So I would say at Zoom, we don't even use partnership. We actually use that word ecosystem. Basically, each component of the ecosystem is a cog. And those cogs would help the wheel move. Again, going back to the Navy, we swim together, we sink together. So buy-in from people who are in this. So who are all of these people? I'll give you certain examples. The governments, to start with, the biggest of them who are funding us because they believe in that cause. The Fed, the state of California, and other states as well. The providers, utility, because they provide us the energy. So how can they make this system possible? The school district, the adopter, the school district must have a buy-in that this will work. And then finally, the piece of financiers, who comes forward, how they come forward. These are all salient folks who go unrecognized for the work they do. Those agencies, the academicians, we work with various labs like, NREL, National Renewable Energy Lab. We work with universities. We work with EPRIs. So all of these are silent partners who provide you the necessary resources. Then comes the implementers. And to start with, the bus company, the charger manufacturer company, the charging management system, the virtual power plant, the aggregators. To whom are you going to sell the energy to? And last but not the least, the contractors who are on the electrical side, that is the switch gears, the manufacturer of, I would say the platforms that would help manage this ecosystem, the drivers, the regulators, technicians. There's a full-blown system where everybody has to buy in. And I can very, very proudly say that to each one of them that I went to, small things, permitting agencies, to each one that I went to, they were all so very supportive. So it is not about, I ask for this, I get this, I do this, so that happens. No, it's about creating a world of its own. And Zoom, I'm very proud to say that at Zoom we think of building relationships that helps the cause. I am not important. Children are important. What are we giving to them and how soon? So I can tell you where people face maximum issues. If somebody says permitting takes time, somebody says utilities take a lot of time. I can give you example that even when, and I'm so thankful to each one of them, but to tell you, I get goose pimples when I have walked to utility, in this case PG&E, and said, this is my thought. They have been more than supportive. It gives me goosebumps today to say that how supportive the ecosystem could be. And it is not getting replicated only with PG&E. It is with every utility that I have walked up to across the nation. So the energy is what you have to think can translate into synergy. And this is what I mean by ecosystem.
Excellent. And also too, I something I gleaned from getting to know you through Taylor's article and doing a little research on you, mentorship as well. So sharing that knowledge, which you're certainly doing here today and in your article, and for the industry, but on a more macro level, talk a little bit about the mentorship that you provide. You're very active at the university level, Stanford University there in your backyard. You live up in the Bay Area. You've provided a lot of mentorship to university students. Talk a little bit about that and how the industry can be mentors. And glean from that, whether it be talking about electrification or, overarching theme, again, back to the safety of students.
So I would like to first thank you for this. Mentorship is something that is a way of giving back to the society. I have come to United States as a first generation immigrant from India. This country has given me so much of opportunity. I can probably never pay it back. For this opportunity, or I would say the chances that has been given to me and my family members to grow and prosper in a land of opportunity, I am very, very grateful to. So I thought my best way is to express gratitude by mentoring students. And I am extremely grateful to the professors we do a course CEE 246, which is value creation for real economy, where people like me provide mentorship to students of creating a product or a service that provides real value to the economy. And this is the oldest course, entrepreneurship course, as I know. And to say the least, I am extremely humbled and thankful for this part of the world, or the Stanford University for giving me this opportunity, or the professors to give me this opportunity. It's a mutual learning curve. You learn the new ideas and the new vision and the new way of doing things from the students, and you teach students those ideas and those thoughts that will help them moving forward. And at the end, you sit in the chair of judgment and provide your feedback to these, to these young minds taking their innovation forward. So it's been a learning experience. Now, this is one part. The other part is, how can industry do it? There are a lot of learnings. The on-ground industry experience is what the institutions need. There is something to be discussed in theory, and there is something that is put on ground. And these stellar professors at this university, or I would say thinking minds shaping the future, so these people are always looking for such experience and exposure. And in a very little way, whatever I can contribute, I am there. Aside from Stanford, I also work with other universities to provide my inputs that can help shape the minds of future. If I'm committed to benefiting the students for tomorrow, why would I not do it today for other students as well? That's the thought behind me.
Well, you absolutely deserve this award and this honor. I know you're very humble about it. That's always appreciated. But you mentioned this country has given so much opportunity to you and your family. Well, sir, you went out and you did something with that opportunity. So I commend you, and I look forward to seeing how the electrification continues to roll out from Zoom and the V to G. Certainly eager to find out more and keep a pulse of what's going on with you guys. Thank you again, Pallav, and looking forward to meeting you in person very soon.
So, Ryan, thank you very much. I would like to, put in some closing comments if you can bear with me. So to start with, I again say I'm humbled, honored, but I am just a face. It's the company, the ecosystem, and most importantly, my partners are the whole ecosystem that has come to support us and is continuing to do so. So I am so grateful to all of them. The other piece I want to tell you is that the scale of doing things cannot come without partnerships and support. My biggest customers, or I would say the biggest buy-in, are those students who don't have voices in this whole ecosystem. So we hear them, we are for them, we were committed to provide a safe and sustainable transportation to our children. The other piece is, while we are at the cutting edge of technology, we use state of the art technology and whatever goes on, we have not forgotten our commitment to the community, the piece of sustainability, and working with each and everyone to make that happen. Last but not the least, I have been a mentor. I am working with students. I love students. I am myself a student. One always learns all the way in life.
Exactly.
But I must recognize one of my mentors who has never even used this word with me, and that's my COO, Vivek Garg. The man is bundled with energy, and what a vision. He reminded me of an old anecdote. In India, it is said that if you are aiming to shoot with a bow and arrow into an eye of a fish, you will see nothing but the eye of that fish. There's no other part of the fish that would be visible to you. And he has taught me that lesson so well. He said, Pallav, if you are focused on the mission, if you are determined to make it happen, it will happen. You just carry on regardless. Just continue with that mission. So I have learned this lesson at this stage, I would say, and I have no words to thank him for giving me this opportunity and having that trust and faith. I would say that to all our listeners and everyone, that if you are focused on your mission, there's nothing that stops you from achieving it. In the words of Paulo Coelho, it says that when you are determined to do something, the universe comes around to connive with you. So that's the focus Vivek has provided me, without even mentioning a single word of saying that, he's my mentor. We both have our veteran lives, and I wish why I didn't work with him earlier than what I started to. So these are my closing comments. I would also like to thank you for recognizing me, for talking to me, for taking out your time, for having me here. And I am very, very grateful to all my listeners going forward. This may be a little longish, but I thought it comes from my heart, so I must lay it out here.
Oh, well, very much appreciated and very well said as well. So again, thank you, Pallav. And Nation, if you want to learn more about Pallav Prakash, our July issue is out. If you head over to stnonline.com, click on the digital magazine. I think it's digital-edition, and you can read all about him in that great article by Taylor Ekbatani. Pallav, again, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Outstanding conversation, Ryan. Really enjoyed the interview with Pallav. Congratulations to him again for winning the 2024 Innovator of the Year award. Much deserved. Great individual, great company. Really excited to see Pallav accept his award on stage at STN EXPO here in a few weeks. And we can't wait to do that and appreciate him and recognize him for all his great accomplishments. Guys, this episode brought to you by Transfinder, Ride, and School Radio. We appreciate our sponsors. Thank you so much. Make sure and show them some love if you see them at STN Expo, or if you talk to them, make sure you mention you heard them on the STN podcast. Visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on everything happening in the school transportation industry. And don't forget, STN Expo. You know you want to go if you haven't signed up. If you have, we'll see you there real soon, July 12th through the 17th. Guys, don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods for all the Great Nation content every week, a new episode for you. You guys got to keep up on the latest and greatest in school transportation, and this is the place that you do it. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.